Good morning, everyone. Good morning. That was a nice good morning. I know it's Saturday morning, and so we appreciate that you're here on a Saturday to come and listen to this important process. We are District Renaissance Partners, and we are very excited to be here today. We want to start just by thanking you, the Adams 14 community, district leadership, board members, parents, educators, other community members, and anyone else who might be in this room. We want to thank you for inviting us in to this process, and we are absolutely honored to be finalists today in this important task for the students of Adams 14. Today we'll start with a brief presentation. We'll introduce ourselves. We'll tell you just a little bit about what we hope to do in partnership with you, and we'll leave plenty of time for question and answer. So with that, we'd like to begin. We'll start with introductions from our team, and we'll start with Chris Gabrielli to my left.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Gabrielli. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Empower Schools. I live in Boston, Massachusetts, but I work all over the country. I'm a father of 5 kids of my own, most of them now into college and beyond, and work, hopefully. My focus for the last 20 years has been trying to help school systems and educators get the most out of the educational opportunity they want to provide their kids. In addition to leading Empower Schools, I'm also a lecturer at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. It's a pleasure to be with you here this morning.
Thank you, Chris. My name is Cara McKenna. I work with Chris at Empower Schools. I've actually spent most of the last year focused on work out here in Colorado, specifically supporting our educators in Denver. I began my career as a high school history teacher in the Boston Public Schools, and then I moved to a neighboring community where I ended up teaching in a special program for students at risk. In that program, they allowed us teachers to actually have quite a bit of decision-making authority over the culture, program, and schedule to serve the students that we thought in the best way possible. And in large part, that's what brings me to this work at Empower Schools and to this opportunity today. After teaching for 7 years, I spent some time in business school and working for a consulting firm, gaining some experience with large-scale project management, and I'm excited to bring all of those skills and background to this work here.
Hi, my name is Mike Miles. I'm an educator, but I come to that point in an unusual way. I started off as an Army officer, West Point graduate, company commander, Army Ranger. Any vets out there? Veterans? Thank you for your service, sir. And then after I was an Army officer, I became a diplomat. I served in Russia and in Poland, and that was my second career. And then I finally got back to the United States. I started teaching. I was a principal, assistant sup, and then superintendent of the Harrison School District in Colorado Springs and the superintendent of Dallas ISD in Texas, a district of 160,000 students. After that, I came back to Colorado, which is my home, to found Third Future Schools. The one consistent theme throughout all my careers is that I'm a public servant. I serve the public interest. What I do in the last 22 years has been serving kids, trying to close the achievement gap for kids who are either challenged by poverty or language barriers. That's me.
And I think, Mike, you might like to.
And can you guys introduce yourself?
Breaker. Great. Hello. Good morning. I'm Amanda Ortiz Torres. I am with Third Future Schools as a school administrator, currently in Aurora Public Schools at Academy of Advanced Learning. As assistant principal there. And I will be opening our new school in Colorado Springs, Coperni 3. And we will be having the same system model of personalized learning, no bullying, and putting kids first. So I'm excited to be part of this process and the innovation of education.
Good morning. I'm Jessica Lopez. I am the Director of Operations for Third Future Schools. I've been working in education for about 13 years now. I'm also on the founding team for now 3 Third Future Schools that we've opened. I'm the mother of 7. Yes, they're all mine. So education's something that I hold very dear to my heart. I'm very, very excited to be here with all of you guys so that we can hopefully work together.
Great, thank you. So that's a little bit about our individual experience. Collectively, to tell you a little bit more about our experience as a group, we have a real wealth and variety of experience across districts and contexts, some of them nearby, such as Denver or Harrison, Colorado, and some of them further afield. In Massachusetts, for example, Lawrence, Massachusetts, Springfield, Mass., and some work in Texas as well. Across all of these contexts, we serve a diverse population of students with diverse needs. And we believe that across all of these contexts that we've worked in, they present some of the same challenges and opportunities that one might find here in Adams 14. So that gives us some experience. At the same time, we know that none of these places is actually Adams 14. And so we know that it will be very important to start by listening, to engage in partnership with you, and to have a deep understanding of the community and your aspirations for this work together. I'd like to also tell you about 2 key things about our work. The first is that we only work in places where we're invited. We think that's really important to establishing partnership and for the work to be successful. And the second is that we have a proven track record of results for student achievement.
So you've been introduced to the formal team, Empower Schools, Third Future Schools, and our team. In the end of the day, though, that's not the real team, right? The real team is this group right here. The real team is Adams 14. This is not a group that's going to come in and do something to the district. That can't work. The team that's going to help move the district forward, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at parents, I'm looking at teachers, I'm looking at administrators who are all going to work hard, and students who are going to work hard to move this forward. We want to partner with you, and so we think this is the slide that introduces the team. The other thing I'd like to say is that we, District Renaissance Partners, made up of Empower Schools and Third Future Schools, we're not here to check any box. We want to do this work, 1, because we think we can help, but 2, because we are about kids and parents and schools, and that's our livelihood. That's what we do. In our particular case, we're not that far down the road from you. We brought some parents and students and teachers. Please stand up just for a second. Just turn and say hi real quick. Go ahead. Even if you're shy, go ahead. So we have parents and teachers and students who live not far from you. Yes, your community is different from any other community, just like ours is different from any other community, but we have many similarities. And we do this work every day. I see these parents and kids and teachers almost every day of the year. This is the work we're engaged in. We're not trying to just come in and check boxes or meet some kind of state order or just do professional development. We're here to work side by side with you and engage with you because this is what we do every day. So that's the team. Now, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, real quickly, you'll have a chance to ask lots of questions of the parents and students and teachers because I think their voices are stronger than ours. Yes, we're doing the presentation, but in the end of the day, I think these are the people you need to talk to. So we'll save time at the in the Q&A for them to speak, and they will be around this morning. But for right now, if we could have just one parent speak and just say 1 or 2 sentences.
Sí, buenos días. Para mí sería algo muy bonito que todos los niños en nuestra comunidad pudiesen compartir la misma educación que están recibiendo mis niñas, que en realidad yo estoy bien contenta por eso. Han avanzado muchísimo, se han enfocado en ellas y me encanta cómo los maestros y todo el equipo de profesionales que están a cargo de la escuela las están empujando cada vez más para que ellas sigan avanzando. Me encanta la educación que están teniendo y creo que sería una gran oportunidad también para mis hijas el poder tener high schools con más opciones y que yo esté segura de que van a seguir con el mismo, el mismo propósito que tienen en la escuela en la que están. Gracias.
I'm just very excited about all the opportunities and all the opportunities that my daughters are having in the current school that they are, and the transition they're going to be doing into the school and the high school as well. So I'm just excited that they're having such an important opportunities over there, and I think that they can provide the same opportunities in this district as well.
All right, thank you. And there'll be more time at the end for Q&A. So as we do our presentation, and we've been asked to look at how to work with you to improve the district, in the end of the day, there has to be a clear vision of where we're going. We're not just a group that's going to come in here and do a spattering of professional development or programs and think that's going to work. In the end of the day, there has to be a challenging and exciting vision that we share with you. So one of the things we're thinking about, and we hope to work with you on, is what is the vision and challenge for this district? It's not just the achievement gap, although we know that's important. We have to close the achievement gap for our kids. And it's tough, right? We all, not just Adams 14, we in our school in Aurora, in Dallas, in Springfield, all of us are working on that. And not too many districts have figured it out. It's a challenge. There's still a huge achievement gap in this state and in the nation. This group, Empower Schools, and my group, we've always been able to close that. And we know that your kids can too. So that's important. That's number one. Reading and writing and math, we have to close that gap. But it's got to be more than that. It's got to be more than that because the year 2030 is coming. And not only do our kids need to read and write and do math, but they also have to be prepared for a different age. So they got to learn how to learn. They got to think critically. They have to have computer programming skills. They have to have communication skills. They have to be able to work as a team. And so our vision that we hope that we think the district will also want to have is to close the reading gap and prepare students for the year 2030. We're not going to do a minimalist kind of approach here. We know that you want that for your kids, and we're going to try to help you get that. And then finally, the other big vision we have is that it's not a top-down or directed by the district, but we are empowering teachers and schools so that they can provide the best education possible because they, teachers, administrators, the school leaders, you know best what has to happen in your school. And while you are one community, yes, we know individual schools have different needs, and that we need to empower every school to meet the needs of their kids in that school. So, a vision we think we can help you with. The question always is, can we do it? Do we believe we have the skills? And some people out there, and maybe some people in media may not think we can do that. It's been tough to do that in most places. This team has experience. We know that there's great teachers here, of course great kids and parents and great administrators here. It can be done. We're not just about talk. We have experience to do it. We know it can be done, and we're going to work with you to get it done.
So with that vision for what we think is possible, we'd like to outline a few ways in which we think we can help. So our strategy is based on 4 key pillars, all of which we think will result in sustainable change over time. And to be clear, this is the strategy across all of the Adams 14 schools. The first pillar is empowering educators. When we say educators, we mean principals and teachers in school buildings. And when we say empowering them, we mean giving them the opportunity to make the decisions that matter for improving student outcomes. This is key to our philosophy, and we think that progress can only truly be rapid when schools have the will and the skill to lead with student success as their complete focus. So it's important then that we also support school leaders and educators in doing this work. And to that end, we'll provide them with expert support in design and implementation, thought partnership, and access to proven resources and best-in-class partners to execute on their vision for the students of Adams 14.
Second aspect of our proposal that's unique, I think, among probably the proposals put in front of you, but not unique for the work we do because it's what we've done every place we've worked, is not seek to have such unilateral authority that it's there's not a clear public joint approach to how the most important decisions get made. So in our proposal, we suggest the creation of a board that would be made up of people from this community and region that would include both your existing school board, your union if they'd like to participate, other key folks from here, and civic and community leaders. I know that Mike's got one of his board members here as an example. Civic and community leaders who care about the success of your district. And they would make some of the key final decisions so that the power to make sure that what's happening here evolves in the ways that are best for students is not taken on by some outside group, but in fact done on a shared basis with the people from this community. That's a pretty complicated thing to pull off and a really simple idea, and I think the right idea for the kind of change that can sustain beyond an initial phase.
The third pillar that we're using is a systemic approach. What that means basically is this. We can't come in here with an army of consultants who will then give you so many different programs, one program after another. We can't come in with a better math program, a better literacy program, and keep doing that, which most districts have done over and over again. Yes, the number one thing is the quality of the teacher in the classroom, but if we try to do just one program in the whole system, or just one part of the whole system, we're not going to have a more functioning or better functioning system, education system. So what we're going to do is a systemic approach, which means that the district also has to redesign some of its work so that it supports the schools and teachers better. Not just a whole bunch of little things that we're going to do here and there. It's got to be systemic. So, for example, we have to find a way, we have experience in finding a way, in supporting teachers in the classroom. We're not just going to say, well, do this math program, do this language arts program, here's a training. There has to be a better way. Does the district prioritize teacher salaries? And we're gonna answer the question together, and then we're going to prioritize supports for teachers, including compensation. Does the district have a financial practice to where it's aligned with its outcomes? I'm sure there's a lot of good work going on, so I'm not trying to diss anybody there, but I suspect that we can strengthen that system so that every school gets the resources that it needs tailored to the school's goals, not just one size fits all. That's what we mean by system, and you're looking at a team that has the experience to help with that.
And the final key pillar here is to use what's called a split screen strategy. So if you look at the image, you can imagine a split screen. On one screen is innovation, and the other screen is improvement. We believe in improvement for all of the Adams 14 schools. So that's the strategy here. And a small handful of schools can be selected to pursue something deeply innovative. Those schools will be called future schools, and Mike will speak to that in a moment. And first, let me step through what acceleration schools really means. Can you advance the slide? Thank you. So for acceleration schools, and to be clear, this is all Adams 14 schools to be improved. if we carry this analogy forward. We will expose educators in buildings to research-based approaches and best-in-class partners, which I mentioned before. And that's not just a theory. That's work that we're doing in Denver across 11 schools that serve nearly 6,000 students. That's work that we do in Springfield, Massachusetts, again across 11 schools and nearly 5,000 students. So this is real change that's happening, and that's improvement. Educators need to be supported in making the decisions that are best for their students around instruction, around culture, around program, any of those decisions that you think matter most for students. So that's part of our approach, the acceleration schools. And now Mike will talk about what it might mean to be a future school.
So we know this has to be a comprehensive approach. We know that the entire school district has to have systemic reform and that there's improvements that we're going to help you with throughout the district. But change takes some time. Can't have a group come in here and just change everything. That's not going to make any sense for anybody. There has to be a methodical way. You have to provide a lot of supports before you can change anything. And there has to be a lot of sense-making and agreement among the community. So when we talk about acceleration schools, that's what we're talking about, the entire district. At the same time, we have to have a sense of urgency around this, right? We can't take a decade to try to move the ball forward. We have to move with a sense of urgency. So what we're going to try to do is in just 2 schools that the board and community help us select, in 2 schools, we're going to try more bold and innovative approaches that we've done before. This is not an experiment. This is something we've done already. And we're going to move those 2 schools forward more quickly than we can the entire district. So what will those 2 schools look like? One, it's open from 6:30 to 6. Parents, how would you like it if the school doors were open at 6:30 to 6? We do that in Aurora. These parents right here, these kids, are in a school that's open at 6:30 and closes at 6 because most of our parents work. Most of our parents only have 1 car. Most of our parents work at 7 in the morning sometimes or 6:30. They work early. And they can't stay and drop their kids off at 8, which is when instruction starts. So in these 2 schools, that's one thing that'll happen. And it's free. In our community, our parents can't afford daycare and childcare early in the morning. I mean, that's a lot of money before and after school. And so we provide that for free. And that's been a big help for our parents who are working hard. Some are working 2 or 3 jobs. But they know that they don't have to show up at 3:15 at the end of the day when instruction stops because we're going to take care of their child after school. And they can get there at 4:30 or 5 or even 6 when their job finishes. Teachers, in this innovative approach, teacher salaries are prioritized. In other words, we put a lot of emphasis on high-quality teaching, and we pay the teachers well, and then we give them a lot of autonomy. At the school in Aurora, the average salary this year is $61,500. Next year, the average salary is going to be $63,500 for a teacher. That's a fact. We will do it at these 2 schools. And we will do it for the same price that the schools currently use. So the same amount of money going to that school, we're going to do the same thing. We do it in Aurora, we do it in Colorado Springs, and we have no more money than anybody else in the district. Personalized learning, students out there, teachers, what we do in these 2 schools is we accelerate the differentiation. In other words, kids who are behind get more time. Kids who are ahead get challenged. It is highly differentiated, and that's why in the schools in Aurora and Colorado Springs, we get 2 years growth in 1 year's time. Go online, look at the PARCC scores, look at our NWEA scores, and you will see out of the 48 schools in Aurora, this school in its first year had the second highest, we call it School Performance Framework, SPF. That's a state accountability metric. Look it up. You can go online, look it up today. Very high achievement, 2 years growth in 1 year's time. And then finally, just like we talked about, ladies and gentlemen, there's a gap for sure in reading, writing, math. We got to close that gap. We have to have early literacy to close that gap, right? That's one gap. But there's another gap growing. We want to help close that gap too, and that's the learn how to learn, working as a team, information literacy, communications gap that's growing. That will help that will be hard for our kids if we don't get them to close that gap by the year 2030. And finally, this slide is just to emphasize, yes, we have to have reading and math instruction. We have to have early literacy instruction. We have to be good at preschool, K, 1, and 2. And we have to support our teachers doing that. And we have to get kids to read and write and do math. As they get older, though, it's got to be more and more learn how to learn how to think. Can't do that without literacy and math first, but then later we have to do that. So at this school, we have information literacy, problem solving, communications, learning how to learn.
And so at the end of the day, what we really want to do is create sustainable change. And we commit to 3 things. The first is to work in true partnership with the district, with school leadership, with the board, and with the community. There's a lot of work to be done. Mike just started outlining some of that, and we'd like to be able to do it together. The second is we want to ensure that this is financially sustainable over time. That's really important. And the third is planning a thoughtful transition process at the end of this project. We believe in turning over the management back to the district at the end of 4 years. We believe that sustainable change is really the goal and what will move the needle for the students in Adams 14. And so we'd like to end there. And again, thank you for your attention while we detailed our plans. We hope that you've gotten a chance to learn a little bit more about us, what we're thinking about, and we invite your questions now.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm going to kind of describe something and then ask the question. Our community has issues with trust. One of the issues is authentically engaging underrepresented community members and ensuring that the participation is inclusive and not something like what has been referred to as a dog and pony show and or token representation. So could you speak to the many ways that you will authentically engage this underrepresented community, but ensure that it's really inclusive and not another dog and pony show or token?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, we have to do a presentation, and so there's a PowerPoint, things like that. But at the end of the day, just like I said earlier, we do this every day. This is real for us. We're not going to come in and give you a program and some professional development and go away. This is real for us. And so the people that you see here are the people we work with. Jessica Lopez, wherever she is, she's passing out the microphone right there, was the office manager, now is the director of operations. We have the people in the community doing the work. So the same thing will happen here. This is not a bunch of people that are coming in to take over positions or anything like that. That ain't ever going to work. What will make it authentic is that we're going to help you. We're going to train you. We're going to work with you to develop the system. We have to hand this back over. We want to in 3 years. That 4th year will be the transition year. So it can't be a bunch of people coming in, doing professional development, and then going away. Or it can't be a bunch of people saying, well, we're going to take over this position, this position, this position, and then go away. Or we bring in a principal and we stick them in the school and we think that's going to be okay. The principal has to come from here. It has to be from you picking them. So that's how we're going to make it authentic. I could talk to you right now about all the communications and information meetings we're going to have. Everybody does that, and we're going to do that too. But in the end of the day, you have to run the information meetings. And so, I mean, the community does, right? The district, the teachers, the schools. Each school has to do their own community. Because otherwise, then it is just one of these, right? And we can do these all day. And I'm not sure that's going to make much difference.
I want to add one point to that. When you empower a school and you put the principal and the educators in that building in charge of the decisions that matter for students, there is no more permanent way to engage the neighborhood and the community than the fact that they can have a seat at that school. So I can tell you, in Springfield, Massachusetts, where I'm the chairman of the board of the kind of board of governance we described that we would propose here, when anyone comes to me and says, here's something I don't like about the school that I'm at, I'm able to look them in the eye and say, you can sit down with the principal, and they all have their own outreach to their neighborhood communities. You can sit down and debate whether the program should change at that school, and they can change the school. They can change it in the middle of the year. They can change it on Tuesday. There are no rules that prevent them from doing that, right? The experience of most people in America that I've ever been in any district is, the answer is, I'd love to do something different, but we can't change things because the district rules say we can't. That's why this is about empowerment of schools. Mike emphasized in his schools, but this will be the same in Springfield, and we see this in a lot of places, that the hours schools run, for example, have historically been hours that were last year's hours, and it'd be hard to change. And this isn't about burdening teachers with more, but it's about setting up a school day that can work for the community, for the parents, for the teachers, for the students. So for example, for teachers, it often means more time to do, there's far more time in Springfield to do preparation, working together. Often the students are engaged with the community partners and doing enrichment at the same time. Students are super well engaged in stuff that wasn't part of the school day, something parents usually deeply want. They want math and English, but they want stuff that middle-class kids in suburbs often get that are often not in district school calendars, and the teachers have the opportunity to do the kind of planning and development that makes them better teachers, more able to personalize. But all those decisions being made at the school, there's nothing more empowering to the community of a school than the fact that they can engage directly with the principal and teachers of their school to make the decisions that matter for their students. So it won't be the same at every school. If you engage with us, not every Adams 14 school is going to be identical, because our theory is not that if everybody did the same thing really well like McDonald's, it would come out well. Our theory is your school should serve your kids well, and part of the job of that board should be to deal with what if it doesn't work at that school, because you've got to hold people accountable eventually for that. But first, you got to give them the chance. And I know that Adams 14, like Springfield, is full of educators who can rise to that occasion. And I know you can attract great new educators when you offer them that proposition.
Great. With new teachers and professional development needs getting into the pipeline, what about going back to the colleges that are training these teachers to be and administrators to be ready to go on what current needs are rather than be redirected or re-educated?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's a question not only for Adams 14, but for all of us in education. But let me turn to a couple teachers to answer that question about their professional development, their training, and what we can offer.
Hi, good morning. My name's Marilyn Hartzell. I'm a 6th grade math teacher at Aurora. I can speak to that a little bit. I'm a second-year teacher, and I was hired by Mike Miles to teach at the school we have in Aurora called the Academy of Advanced Learning. Full transparency, my salary is $65,000 as a second-year teacher because we value teachers who have skills and who are dedicated and committed to children. So with that being said, our model and the things that we believe and what these potentially 2 future schools could be looking at is valuing teachers for commitment and for skill, not necessarily how long have you been in a program, how many years have you been teaching. While those things are valuable, at the end of the day, do you have results and love children? And I do. And I'm a second-year teacher. And I think that my teacher preparation program, to address what you had mentioned, was a really good one. I came from out of state. I'm back in school. I'm a student pursuing a master's at CU Boulder because I'm continuing my education. And I am supported by my administration. Every Tuesday, I go to class. I have to leave immediately after school. So while we mentioned providing after-school care, I'm not available on Tuesdays because I go to further my education, and my administration supports those choices because they know that's going to help me become a better teacher. Every Thursday, we have meetings. We call them PLC, Professional Learning Communities, where I get to sit down with other people in my content, such as Stephanie Yoon, who teaches 4th grade math, and we're able to sit down and talk about the things that our kids need and how we're personalized and issues we see. As a 6th grade teacher, I also have 2 5th grade students who come to me only for mathematics because they're particularly gifted. So at our school, it's really fluid, and these are conversations we have between teachers and administrators talking about how are we really going to personalize and support our students. And it doesn't matter if you've been teaching 2 years, or if you've been teaching 6 years, or if you've been teaching 15. Our goal is that no matter how long you've been teaching, are you here because you love kids and you want them to learn? And if you are, then we want you on our team because those are the kind of people that we like to work with.
And I just want to add to that, as a school administrator with the connection of the university, I myself am a professor at UCCS in Colorado Springs, teaching mathematics and science to the teachers coming into our workplace. So we provide them the partnership to not only get experience through student teaching, but we also have positions called learning coaches, which are roles to get used to the model and getting students involved in education through planning and purposes. So we build that partnership within that, and a lot of our administrators in the program also have those connections. So I think that's a great point.
I have the next question. In your plan, you discussed a different teacher salary and work hours for the educators. How do you expect to retain teachers by changing the agreed upon contract, which actually may mean a decrease for some of our veteran teachers, and addressing the fears that they have about these charter type schools, especially in a teacher shortage? You also indicate that you will have highly qualified volunteers.
So, the first thing is this team is going to work closely with the administration, the superintendent, and the school board. No contract will change. That's up to Adams 14 administration. So yes, there will be a CCRP, and we'll make recommendations, but we're not going to change anything that's contractual at the very beginning. So no teacher needs to fear that anything will be worse for them. What I was talking about in the 2 future schools, yes, those, if you're going to work there, that has to be voluntary. We're not going to force anybody to work anywhere that they don't want to work. And so that's what will be voluntary. And if the rest of the district eventually wants to prioritize salaries, which is what we're going to suggest, because we think, look, I've been in this 22 years, and I think teachers not paid enough. I think what's happening across the country is a reflection that most people think teachers are not paid enough. And so the question is, can we do that? Can we raise teacher salaries given even current resources? And we're proving that you can. And so eventually, while this will happen in 2 schools right away, eventually the goal is to have the entire district have salaries at the same level, even if we don't get any more resources from the state. And the question is, can it be done? The answer is, yes, it can. It's already being done.
I just want to add in that, in Springfield, if you look at the Empower Schools website and watch the video at the front, which focuses on Springfield because we've been there longest with this kind of approach, you'll see the head of the union. Massachusetts is a very strong union state. You'll see the head of the union, NEA affiliate, Massachusetts Teachers Association, talking about what she makes of the schools and the approach, and I think you'll find her highly enthusiastic. Not only did the teachers vote 92 to 8% the first time for a very different agreement that in fact does put more voice at schools and more money at schools, they voted 93 to 7%, by 1% more, to renew the contract after 3 years. So my experience is, somebody asked earlier about all the years of churn and burn and all the things that have happened. That's everywhere in the country. Springfield had endured the same thing, and Springfield also was under some state pressure to try something different. And at the beginning, everybody was suspicious. They should be. But what I think is one of the most compelling aspects of what you'd see if you visited Springfield, and many people have, including many teachers, many teacher union leaders, and others, is places where teachers feel for the first time in their career that their voice at the individual school level is at an unprecedentedly high level with regard to the decisions, and they appreciate that more resources than ever are being put at the school level, allowing both compensation for teachers for different hours, more duties, but also allowing for the schools to make choices and investments that schools have not been able to make for a long time. So, you know, it is an interesting dynamic. I think if you went, again, if you look, you'll see a bunch of teachers on there who have been there 15, 20 years, who voted highly to renew. So I'm pretty confident that teachers generally really want to go this direction.
And I want to clarify one thing. In these two schools, yes, the average salary will be raised. That is not at the expense of any other school or the district budget. What I said earlier that you might have missed is that, let's say this school right here, they're spending, let's just say, $600,000 total in their programming to run this school, okay, this year. We're going to take the same amount of money, the exact same, not a dollar more. We're going to reorganize in an innovative way. We're going to get outcomes, and we're going to raise salaries because we're going to prioritize salaries. So that leaves all the rest of the money the same as the rest of the district has to use. So this school is not going to rob from the other schools in order to raise salaries. Do you see what I'm saying? Just like right now in Aurora, we don't get any more money than anybody else. In fact, we get a little bit less than the Aurora schools. And yet we have the highest salaries, we have the greatest achievement, and there's ways to do that.
Gracias, buenos días. Yo tengo una pregunta bilingüe. My question is a bilingual question. I'd be curious to hear your schooling ideologies in terms of language of instruction, multiculturalism versus monoculturalism. Mi primer cuestión es, ¿cuáles son sus ideologías de las escuelas en cuanto a lenguaje de instrucción, en cuanto a multiculturalismo versus monoculturalismo? But my question is really, what's your motto, working with vulnerable populations that the system actually deems them vulnerable, what's your motto for meaningful participation and inclusive participation? Meaningful in that families are not an extension of the school, and inclusive because leadership actually hears what families have to say, such as, I don't know, maybe their children want psychological attention. Mi pregunta realmente se refiere a cuál es el modelo que utilizan para promover una participación realmente significativa de los papás, en cuanto a que los papás no se convierten como en una extensión de las escuelas, que les enseñan a cómo leer y escribir con sus niños, y que también sea inclusiva por parte de los directivos, o sea que cuando los papás tienen una pregunta que va más allá de lo académico, también se les haga caso, ¿no? Por ejemplo, si los papás piden ayuda psicológica a los niños, ¿cuál es su modelo para incluir a todos?
Okay, so several questions there, but let me just start by saying our system caters well to helping kids who have language barriers or kids who come from poverty. Our ELL students had outcomes, achievement, as high as the non-ELL students. You can look that up on the online for CD's website also. It's the same thing with our SPED students, had the growth as our non-SPED students' growth. But as far as parent participation and how we engage them, we probably should just ask a parent. So do you want to speak to that just briefly?
Ok. En español, yo soy madre de familia. Mis niñas están en la escuela. Hace 2 años que se abrió la escuela. Soy voluntaria. Estoy, se puede decir, todos los días. Los maestros dentro Oh, sorry.
Pueden ser breves sus
Ok.
frases para que le dé tiempo al intérprete de que complete toda su frase y diga todo lo
Claro,
que quiere decir.
ok. Soy voluntaria 2 años desde que empezó la escuela en
2
Aurora.
years since the school started in Aurora.
Soy voluntaria dentro de los salones
I'm
de los
volunteer
maestros.
inside the classroom of the teachers.
Soy bienvenida.
I'm welcome.
Si tengo dudas
If I have any doubts
sobre cómo explicarles a mis niños algo que no entendieron,
about like how to
¿Me
explain
escuchan?
anything to my kids that they don't understand, they listen to me.
están disponibles para ayudarme a mí y
They are
ayudar a mis
available to
hijas.
help me and help my daughters.
Yo había estado buscando una escuela que tuviera lo que tiene esta,
I've been searching for a school that has what
el
this one has.
enfoque hacia los niños,
The focus into the children,
el que descubrieran cuáles son sus necesidades.
for them to discover their necessities.
Por ejemplo, la mía que tengo aquí, que está
For
ahorita en
example,
6º año,
The one that is right here next to me, she's in 6th grade.
en literatura me la han subido al nivel 8,
In literature, she is in level 8
porque se han enfocado en ella y esa es la pasión que ella tiene.
because they focus on her and that's her passion as well.
La que tengo ahorita en 4º
The one that is in 4th grade,
está en 5º año de matemáticas,
she's in 5th grade math.
que es lo que a ella le apasionan, las matemáticas.
That is her passion, mathematics.
Se enfocan en cada niño, en las necesidades que tienen y si necesitan ayuda extra, ellos se las están dando.
They focus on all the necessities of the kids, and if they need extra help, they are getting it.
Y puedo decir que mis hijas de verdad, no hay un solo día que ellas me digan, no quiero ir a la escuela, mamá,
And
me
there's
estoy
definitely,
aburrida.
there's no days that my daughters are gonna ever say to me, I don't want to go to school, I'm bored.
Ellas disfrutan la escuela
They enjoy their school,
y yo me siento bienvenida.
and I feel very welcomed.
Gracias.
Thank you.
I think we only have 3.5 minutes, so we'll do speed dating, so real quick.
So
And my
my
next-
question is, I'm a teacher here in this district, and you brought up the salaries multiple times. Are those salaries based on test scores and results? And is that a salary that's negotiated with teacher unions? Are they involved in that process?
So the salaries I'm going to be fast, so salaries in Aurora are not based on results, they are based on the position. So 6th grade reading and 3rd grade reading have the highest salary range, so there's a range. And then there's a minimum for 3 years of experience. We do have an incentive pot, $80,000, if we hit our goals as a school.
The only mention that I've heard about language, and we think as we speak, is that language is a barrier. You said that twice, Mike. How can you convince me and a community where half of the students are not native English speakers that you actually believe that their language is a right and an asset and not a barrier?
Yeah, thanks for asking. And maybe I can get one of the teachers to respond, but let me respond first. So what I mean by that is that often in our society and in our education system, we as a profession don't often embrace that and often don't appreciate the challenges that some kids have in speaking and learning English. So what we have to do is put systems in place, like our ELD teachers, like our intervention programs, that support a child speaking English. We definitely want them to be bilingual. In fact, if all the kids were bilingual, that would be better for them in the year 2030, and our English-speaking kids should be speaking Spanish as well. So that's what I meant by barrier. I meant that we have to look at the barriers sometimes that we have in the system that prevent a child from learning English well, because that's our problem, not a child's problem. I think we have 1 minute left.
Hi, last question, I guess, or no, not last question, I'll be fast. And I asked this question in the with the previous group about your board training and guidance. Another thing, and I'm gonna mix it up here with another one. As this community has already spoken about the charter school system. I'm part of the group that was able to read all the introduction and all that stuff. So I noticed also that you guys have been working with DPS, and we know like DPS has been taken over by charters pretty much, and they're in like, the parents are freaking out right now. So I wanted to, so it's, I guess, two questions. Board training and guidance, and what are your comments about what's going on at DPS teachers?
By board training, you mean the Adams 14 school board? Is that the board you mean? Yeah, I just want to make sure I know which board you mean. Yeah, so as Empower Schools, we only work in partnership with districts. We only work in partnership with school boards. We've only ever worked in places where school boards voted for us to come in. We've only, where there are unions, Texas doesn't have as much in the way of unions. In Colorado and Massachusetts, we've only worked, with the unions that are present and under the guidelines that are required. That was a question that was asked earlier. We believe in that approach. We've worked closely with those boards. The reason we propose in our proposal a new board for the period of this work is that we think it's critical to engage.
I need to call time.
Okay,
Thank
not
you so much.
supplant the current board. So
Thank you.
in Denver, by the way, these are all district schools.
I'm sorry, I need to call time. Appreciate District Renaissance Partners' presentation, their preparation for being here. Thank you so much.